Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of my podcast. Today's podcast is going to be on regret. And as usual, I want to start this podcast off with a quote. It's better to look ahead and be prepared than to look back and regret. And that's the quote by Jackie Joyner Kersee. First off, I know I missed my episode on Monday. I apologize. This weekend I was going through a training evolution, and it was very demanding a lot of my time, and I was unable to focus on things outside of that training. It was 100% something that I had to focus on. I know I should have been proactive and probably recorded it like a week earlier, but that was my bad on not being prepared. So I'm down one podcast. I owe y'all one. I'll double up and release two this weekend, or one Sunday and one Monday. I'll double up. I owe y'all. But regret is something that I feel like haunts a lot of us. A lot of us all feel like there's something in life that we could have done better. You could have trained harder. You could have went left instead of right. We all have regrets, but having regret doesn't serve you. Like it has no point. It's a pointless emotion, because at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can do about the past. People feel regret because they live in the past. They're not being present. And that doesn't serve us. We can't do anything about the past. The past has already happened. It's a chapter that's been written, and we can't unwrite it. All we can do is move forward, be present, and make sure that our present actions ensure that we have a better future, and that we learn from that mistake and not make that mistake again. How does it serve you in your goals? It doesn't. This is the first question we must ask ourselves amidst hardships. Like, this is the question about that is like the basis for all of our, tough choices and tough decisions. Like, how does it serve you? How does worrying serve you? How does being fearful serve you? How does I'm sorry about that. My little timer went off. So, all right, back at it. Rewind. So, how does worrying serve you? How does being fearful serve you? How does these emotions that cause you to pause or stumble or hinder your performance, how do they serve you? And the question is, they don't. At the end of the day, you still need to do that thing that is maybe scaring you or causing you to hesitate or causing you to think twice about something. At the end of the day, you still have to do it. So why don't you just go ahead and do it? It's just pointless to worry. It's pointless to be fearful, because at the end of the day, it still has to get done. That's the same with regret. Like, if you regret something and you live your life with that regret on your shoulder and you let it weigh on you and affect the decisions you make, like how does that serve your goals? How does that serve the mission that you have for your life and the dreams that you have for your family and for yourself? Like, it doesn't. Regret doesn't serve you in any way, in any meaningful way. It is an emotion that will be an anchor to you and be a hindrance to your future endeavors. Regret in no way, shape, form, or fashion serves you in a positive way. It's not a positive emotion. I can't think of anything that regret could be used for. You could take regret and turn it into a lesson and use it as a motivator for yourself to not make that choice again or to not do that action again. But as far as feeling regret and carrying it with you throughout your life and for the duration of whatever your lifespan, like, you shouldn't regret anything. Sometimes we make decisions and we do things that don't serve our goals, that we made decisions because we couldn't see the full picture. We made the decision with the best information we had on hand at the time. Maybe we had emotions that were affecting us, like we made decisions out of what we thought were love or just the right thing to do. But you're past it. Whether it was something that you did intentionally or unintentionally, you're past it. And having a regret about that decision, it doesn't serve you. It's not something that's going to motivate you or help you to push forward. It's going to hold you back at the end of the day. It's going to act like an anchor. So there's no point in being regretful. Regret is a symptom of not being present and living in the past. Being present is something that we've talked about in podcasts before this one. Like, being present is just being in the moment, because that's the only thing that exists in actuality. So past, present, and the future, right? Three concepts of time that we have developed as human beings. In actuality, all of that stuff doesn't really exist. Only thing that we have is the present, because the past has already happened, and we can't time travel and go back into the past and change the things that we did, whether we regret them or not. The present is where we are right now, and this present moment in time is the only thing that we have. Like, physically right now is the only thing that we can do something about. And the future is dependent upon the present. So if we're not living fully in the present, we will end up making mistakes or reliving or revisiting those regrets, and they will manifest themselves into the future. And then you'll find yourself in a cycle, like how we've talked about that circular motion of, instead of changing one key component and destroying that circular motion, we reinforce it. So instead of worrying about the past and the future, we need to be present and just be mindful of our circumstances, our situation, how we are, what we are doing, stuff like that in the present. That way we can ensure that the future will be a lot different than what our past was. If you regret something that bad, then it should be a motivator for you not to do it again. It shouldn't be a weight for you not to move forward. It should be a motivator for you not to do it again. And sometimes you just have to take that L. You just have to chalk it up to a loss. Like, hey, that was a loss. It is what it is. But you learn. You learn. Even in failures, like, even if you don't accomplish a goal, or you don't meet your standard, or you don't accomplish what you set out to do, it's still a lesson. There's a lesson in it all. So you could learn something from that, and then you could apply it next time, or you could apply it to your life and then use it daily. And then in the future, you'll ensure that, things will be different. But it's all about perspectives and how you look at things. And instead of just being single-minded and having tunnel vision, it's about weighing your options and seeing the full board, not just being so focused on, that one mistake, like, oh, that's the one mistake that I made that changed my whole life. That's the reason why I am where I am today. No, the reason why you are where you are today is because of the decisions that you're making presently. It's not because of the past. Your past is your past. There's nothing that we can do about it, good, bad, or indifferent. The only thing that we can do is work in the present to ensure that our future is better than our past was, or that we don't make the same mistakes in the future that we made in the past. It's all about learning perspectives and about shifting things to work for you as opposed to against you. Every day that we wake up is an opportunity to create change in your life and others for the better. We also got to look at the bigger picture. Like I said, how we got to look at the full board. Like, sometimes it may not be about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes maybe what you're going through or what you're experiencing is meant to help somebody else down the road, to help your children, to help a friend, a family member, a colleague, somebody who might be going through that same lesson or that same hardship in life. And maybe you go through the hardship, and because you went through the hardship, is now going to be a lesson that you learn, and you could turn it into something positive, and you can give it to that person. And then that person, instead of having to go through the lesson the hard way like you did, they now have a shortcut or a guide, a map, how to get through, that hardship, as opposed to, the hard way. And now they know not the easy way, but a better route for them to take to get through the hardship. Um, and that's another perspective to it. Each one teach one. If what's the point of going through lessons if you just hold them to yourself? Because everything is connected. We talk on this podcast about a lot of different topics and stuff like that, and they all seem like, you know, they might be not related, or this one's over here and that one's over there, and they're two separate topics, and they don't have no correlation, but everything is related. Everything is everything. So when you look at my podcast and all the different episodes and all the different topics and stuff like that, think of it as a big puzzle, and these are pieces that you're plugging in to make a complete picture. So just because a piece is all the way up here in the corner doesn't make it any less important than the piece that's in the center. It's just a different piece of the puzzle, and all the pieces of the puzzle work together to get the whole picture. And that's what I'm trying to do on my podcast. So we talk about principles of polarity, the 4 agreements, the 7 decisions, motivational poems and mantras that you can talk yourself through and stuff. Now you can use all of those things to help you deal with regret. Like you can say mantras to help instill in your memory and your mind that today will be different, that you're not your decisions, you're not your past. You can use the 7 decisions as a mantra or a reminder of what you're committed to, or what each day will be like for you, what type of person you are. You can use the 4 agreements as like a contract with yourself. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to live my life. You can use all of the information that I've been giving out in this podcast as a way to battle regret, just to shift your perspective and your mindset about what you're going through and what you're dealing with, because that's really what it's all about. The battlefield is in the mind, and once you control your mind, you control your environment, because things take different shape because of your perspective and how you manifest it in your mind, you create it in your mind. Like, you can go through a bad experience and you can have a woe is me mentality, or you can go through a bad experience and be like, man, that was crazy. Here's the lesson I learned. I won't do it ever again, or maybe I won't do it that way ever again. But we just have to shift our perspectives, apply the knowledge that we have, seek more knowledge so that we can continually be learning and getting better, and then applying it. Because what's knowledge without application? If you have all that knowledge and you just let it sit up here, what's the point of it? Knowledge without application is pointless. So we have to apply it in our daily lives. And I've really been learning this lately. 2020 has been a year. Boy, I tell you, it has been a year. And it's been a grown year, but it's been a crazy year. And I've just been going through some things on different levels in my life, and with the tryout and the training that I just had this weekend, and that was the end of what seemed like months long of preparation and anticipation and emotional commitment and stuff like that. So it was pulling on me in different directions, and I didn't come to the conclusion I wanted, unfortunately, but I don't regret anything I did, because at the end of the day, I learned a lot. It made me better. I stepped out there on faith. I applied myself, and that's all you can ask for. There's things that happen outside of yourself and outside of your control. But at the end of the day, like I always say, the one constant in every situation is going to be you. So I can either have the woe is me mentality, I could be salty, or I could look over the whole experience. I can replay it, rewind it, learn lessons, and keep it pushing. Turn to the next page. There is nothing that we can do to go back and change our past. All we can do is make sure that our present and future are better. And the way that we make our future better is by focusing on the present, by being present, by doing what we can do with what we have, where we are, and how we live. What are the 3 W's? I'm sorry. Do, what you can, where you're at with what you have. There we go. It's 3 W's. So that's how we can ensure that our future is better than our past, by living in the present and applying the 3 W's to affect change and to make the best of what we have now and the moment that we have now. Feeling and focusing on regret can open yourself up to other emotions like depression, which can further complicate the situation. Like I said, everything is related. I meant that in the podcast, and I also meant that like as far as your body, and the situations you go through and stuff. Like if your mind isn't right, your thoughts can affect your emotions. Your emotions can affect physically your body, your chemistry. Your body might release different chemicals in response to feelings. So you might end up giving yourself anxiety because you're scared of something and you're worried. Give yourself depression because you constantly regret and you go back to those thoughts, and it makes you sad and you're not living the life you want to live. So now you're stuck in this pool of depression, and then it can affect other aspects of your health as well. Some research that I found on the internet at Concordia University in Montreal discovered that the emotional distress of regret can disrupt your hormonal and immune system, particularly if you are 65 or older, which can lead to
Your task is journal.
That's my affirmation reminder, which can lead to colds, headaches, or worse. So it won't even lead to depression. I'm saying it can lead to depression, but studies have also shown that it can lead to cold, headaches, or worse. And also there have been studies that have shown that like our emotions, our attitude, our mindset can control our health. Like if you're feeling sad all the time, depressed all the time, stuff like that, usually that's accompanied by being sick. I'm not saying it's always accompanied by being sick, but usually in some cases, people get sick behind that stuff because our body is alive. It's not just, a thing. It's alive. So it reacts to stimulus, and if you're giving it constant, negative emotions, which is releasing these chemicals in response to that negative emotion, then those chemicals they're meant to have an effect on our body, or they're meant to elicit a response in our body. And sometimes those chemicals being released on a consistent basis can have a negative effect on our body, such as like cortisol, which I think is released during stress. And if that's released constantly over time, it could have a negative effect on our body. Same with depression. And when we feel regret, it's not a positive emotion, it's a negative emotion. So the stimulus is regret. Regret can be can take the form of depression emotionally, or anxiety, or fear, or whatever. And then your body, in response to that emotion, will release chemicals that will induce or stimulate a response within your body that may not be, or I can guarantee won't be, the type of response that you want. Nobody wants to be sick all the time. Nobody wants to be, feeling down all the time, feeling sluggish, feeling not waking up, feeling not going outside, or doing things. Nobody wants to feel like that, but that's a consequence of our thoughts. That's a consequence of the type of energy that we put out there into the universe. So it's just something to think about. A lot of people think about mind, body, and spirit as like separate, but again, they're all just pieces to the puzzle. And we have to work on every level in order to develop the full picture. Now, I know usually in these episodes when I talk about regret and things that don't serve us, towards the end, I usually give some steps that we could take to battle those negative emotions, feelings, perspectives. This podcast is no different. So here at the end of the podcast, I have 8 ways that you can battle your regrets. I just like to talk about everything in the sense of warfare. Y'all know my history. I'm a Marine, was in the Army as well. So, battle was my life for a little while. So what are some common ways to deal with regret? You can focus on others' regrets. I know this looks or that sounds kind of bad, but it's about what they mean by that is that like you can step outside of yourself and look at other situations and say, well, look, my situation isn't so bad. I could be this, or my situation couldn't be bad. I could have this type of regret. It's just stepping outside of yourself, not being selfish, and think about how others may be suffering or worrying or what other regrets people may have. Um, Sometimes that can help by looking at other situation, and it lets you know that yours isn't that bad, and maybe your regret or your worry is misplaced. Let others motivate you. This goes back to what I always talk about. It takes a team. Talk to people, get different perspectives from people who are outside your situation, who can look into your situation and maybe see something you didn't, like a lesson or a positive. Um, Talk to a therapist. Just it. You got to build the team. Let other people help you. Because it's not all about you going through this world by yourself. Build a team. Shift from inner to outer focus. Again, it's not all about you. Step outside yourself, look around yourself, look at the world as a whole. Take different perspectives. Don't just look through like this singular focus. There's all of this out here. Focus on all of this, and don't be so selfish. Don't take yourself so seriously. Write out your angst. Create a journal. Use your journals for whatever you need it to be. There's no particular, my hoodie is acting crazy right now. There is no particular way to write a journal. You could write a journal just to pour out your thoughts on paper. You could write your journal to document events. You can write your journal to, consistently enter something like a gratitude journal, like I am grateful for this, I am grateful for that. So if you need to write out and work through your regret physically on paper, then do that. Do what it takes to be successful. Do what you need to do to work through and get through your situation. Assess your actions, adapt, overcome, and achieve. We've talked about this. Just debrief yourself. That's what we did in the military. So after we would have a briefing, we would go on a mission, and then after the mission, we would have a debrief. And that's what you need to do with yourself. So you did this thing, completed this action, had this event happen to you. All right. So now that you're past that action or that moment in time, debrief yourself. What could I have done better? What went wrong? What could I have done better? Was it in my control? Was it out of my control? What perspectives can I put on it to spin it from a negative to a positive? Just little things like that. Debrief yourself, walk yourself through what happened, even if you have to write it down. That helps sometime. And then move on. Turn the page. Just like you turn the page in your journal, turn the page in your life, and you're on to the next one. That simple. Set new goals. It's never too late. As long as you have air in your lungs, you have another day or another moment to affect change in your life. So just set new goals. Start a new career path. Start a new journey in your life. Look for a new relationship. It's never too late. As long as you have air in your lungs, then you have the ability to affect your life, to affect your future in a positive way. And lastly, seek help. This is what I talk about, like looking for a therapist or looking for somebody outside yourself to be a part of your team. Sometimes you just got to go see a therapist. There's nothing wrong with it. Mental health is very serious. Regret can be something that weighs on your mental health and leads to other things like depression, anxiety, fear, stuff like that. So, seek professional help. If you need to see a therapist, there's nothing wrong with going and seeing a therapist. It is what it is at the end of the day. But I would rather go see a therapist and get my mental health right than live with the constant stresses of trying to deal with stuff by myself and not knowing appropriately how to deal with it. It's all about recognizing that you have a problem and then working towards how to fix that problem or to create a solution for that problem. If therapy is one way, then reading books, listening to my podcast. YouTube has 1,000 different videos. Um, there's a million different ways to solve, a problem. So even if you don't feel comfortable going to therapy, I would encourage you to read books. I hope my podcast can be helpful to you. Go on YouTube, look up different videos. Maybe you could talk to a friend who is wiser than you, or a friend that has successfully dealt with some failures in the life that can, help you to overcome that regret, or help you to overcome those negative feelings in your life, to help you ensure that your future is better than your past.